kept our armor.
Rod Fergusson runs a little game studio making a little game you might have heard of. We're at the Coalition talking about Gears of War 4. Congratulations, sir. I've been playing this game and having a blast already. We are minutes away from this thing being out there.
I know, so close.
How are you feeling?
I feel great. You know, it's been 2.5 years since January 2014, and to go from like zero to an actual game shipping in 2.5 years, that I'm really excited and proud. You know, I've been with Gears for a long time, since 2005, and now to have the next version ready to go. And I think it's one of the best Gears games we've ever made, and it's definitely the best Horde we've ever had. I'm excited.
Awesome. AAA has changed a whole hell of a lot since you've made your journey from North Carolina to Boston, now to Vancouver.
Right.
Has your process changed? Has the way that you kind of look at how games get made changed? Is it? Did you have to kind of work with the Vancouver team members here to sort of get everybody on the same headspace, or did you guys ramp up and everybody was ready for this?
Yeah, I mean, AAA is always about sort of, you're moving, it's a large ship, right? You have a lot of people, and now as we move from Gen 7 Xbox 360 to Gen 8 Xbox One, the technology's changed, and everybody's more specialized. You know, back in the day, oh God, how old am I now saying back in the day? Back in the day, you would have a person who could do everything, a generalist who could, you know, make art and light the level and script the level and all that stuff. And now I have like a person who just does lighting. That's all they do, right? And you get all, because the technology and what's required is so sophisticated that you actually need specialists now. So the teams have grown, not just necessarily because of the amount of work, but because of just how complex everything is. But in order to manage those teams, it's kind of stayed the same, that you have to create a clear vision. And that was something I was really keen on doing when I joined the Coalition, was to be able to say, this is where we're heading with Gears of War 4, and then make sure that everybody's moving in that direction.
There was such a pride when Epic had the Gears franchise, this sort of proprietary brand that was bubbling up and becoming this omnipresent sort of force in the video game space. Could you have foreseen, you know, working and toiling on Gears in North Carolina, that one day you would end up on the west coast of Canada making a Gears of War game?
No, it's been really crazy. You know, it's been, when you look at, like I was saying, this is triple homecoming for me, because it's been, wow, 15 years since I've been back in Canada, 10 years since I've been at Microsoft, and 3 years since I've been on Gears. So, you know, all this stuff sort of came perfectly together to allow for this to happen, which is really exciting. But I've always loved about Gears, especially when it's with pairing with Microsoft, is Gears has always been super edgy. It's always been a hard M game with a chainsaw as a bayonet and monsters and swearing, and I just love that Microsoft embraces it like this, and that we're able to have this kind of game inside of Microsoft. And because I think when you look at the fans, they're so passionate, so dedicated, and they all have tattoos, and it means so much to them. And I think it means a lot to the Xbox as well to have this type of game out there. And so yeah, it blows my mind. I'm still doing it today.
And I've seen a little bit of the marketing around this thing, where you have the documentary following the people that have inked themselves with Gears stuff. How does that sink in with you? How do you feel when you watch video footage of that? And was that something that you kind of pushed forward as a concept to start talking about Gears coming back?
Yeah, it was just really, I mean, people getting inked is just, they're making it permanent. And when you think about, if you were to say it sort of trivially, you go like, oh, so I got this video game ink on me for the rest of my life. Yeah. And that's when you realize it changes from being just a distraction. Like, I think people who don't necessarily understand gaming, they see it as just this visual distraction, like playing a match 3 on their phone. Yeah. And when you look at what actually AAA gaming can do, and story-based gaming and characters that matter to people, it actually affects them and affects their lives. And that's the biggest thing for me that I take away from Gears of War, is that we've had co-op from the very beginning, and that co-op is what's allowed people to connect. Like, every time I go to a Comic-Con or a fan fest, or I'm signing posters for people, I get the stories of, oh, I met my wife, playing Gears of War, or waiting in line for Midnight Madness, and oh, I live really far away from my sister, so we play campaign together, so we can talk about what's going on in our lives. Or, hey, I'm this mid-40s mom, and I come home and we jump into Horde with my kids, and I can talk to them while we're playing, and realizing that it's causing people to connect, and it's this idea of a shared experience that affects people's lives, and it's because of that it becomes more than just, oh, it's a digital entertainment distraction. To me, it's meaningful to people.
I remember interviewing you and Cliff at E3 and GDC and events leading up to the launch of the first Gears.
Right.
Did you know Did you guys know, or was there
No.
was there sort of like a fingers crossed kind of attitude over there?
Oh, it was totally fingers crossed. You know, when you look at all the risks that were in Gears 1, it was a studio it was a PC studio trying to make a console game.
Yeah.
It was a multiplayer studio trying to make a story. You know, we had a new engine that wasn't finished yet. We even changed the renderer halfway through.
Clips talking about Resident Evil 4 making such a huge impression on it.
Yeah, exactly. And we started trying to do this Resident Evil meets Brothers in Arms, and at the end of the day, I would say we essentially made Predator.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but it was just risk after risk after risk after risk, and so we were just like, I hope. And in fact, multiplayer was a 24-hour period away from being cut.
Wow.
Where we were like, okay, we're going to E3. What are we showing? And so we put together multiplayer, and we brought Caps down and he played it, and he goes like, this is no fun. And we're like, okay. And he goes like, okay, I guess we're cutting multiplayer. And we're like, give us a night, like give us till tomorrow. And so he went away and we worked on it. And then the next day he came back and played, and it was super fun. And they were like, okay, we have something. And so that's what we brought to E3 that year. And then people were like, hey, I hear there's something going on up here. What's going on with this chainsaw thing? And we just started getting celebrities in and all this buzz. And then we're like, okay, now. And it took that E3 before we knew like, hey, I think we have something here.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, people will kill me if we don't start talking about some of the new goodies that are going to be in Gears 4. First of all, frame it up for the stuff that, you know, the Gears hardcores definitely want and is definitely coming back with Gears 4.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Gears is always, to me, there's three parts to that product, right? Like we have the campaign, and the campaign's back in a big way. We have 2-player co-op because we want to get back to that intimate feeling. 4-player is kind of chaos, and you don't really pay attention to the story. So we want to get back to that dark tone that Gears 1 had, that sense of mystery, and can you survive the night and discover this new threat that you're trying to figure out. So the campaign's back in a big way. Then we have versus multiplayer, so that competitive multiplayer. And we've really broadened it to all 4 of our we see our audience now as not just one body of people, but of 4, the new player, the social player, the competitive, and esports. So we have a full offering for you've never played before or you play super hardcore. We have modes and ways to do that. And the biggest thing is our sort of matchmaking. We work with Microsoft Research to make the best matchmaking possible so that we can actually put people into tiers and buckets so they can play with people of similar skills. So you don't go in and get shotgunned in the face by somebody who's been playing for years. You're playing against people of your skill.
Right.
And then, of course, fan favorite, Horde is back. You know, we haven't had Horde for a while, since 2011, and so to bring back Horde in a big way, and the fact that we've changed it so fundamentally, you know, now it's much more emergent with mobile fortifications and our fabricators, so you can create a base anywhere you want. The fact that
Fabricator is so damn important. I didn't realize that until we started playing the game. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's it's the central hub, right? It's where you can resurrect people. It's where you can build your stuff. And so having all that, and you can move it wherever you need to adapt to the situation. And then, you know, we have classes so that you can play the way you want to play, and we have skills so you can change what you're doing, and you can level those up in progression so you can get better and better as you play Horde. So to me, just having all 3 of those elements back, and, you know, in the past, we've really focused a lot on campaign and kind of, you know, the stepchildren have been, you know, the Versus and Horde. And now for 4, we've really, like, from day 1, we had equal effort on all 3, and I think you can feel it in the game.
That's awesome. I definitely want you to pass this on to the writer, too. I was laughing a lot in the 2.5 hours that I played. I found it filled with charm, and I thought Marcus Phoenix's lines and his concern for his tomatoes were amazing. And you know, and that also, I think, is kind of a tenet of the Gears franchise, is that it doesn't take itself too seriously, right?
Yeah, I don't like franchises that take themselves too seriously, because at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say that this is kind of a little ridiculous, right? I've got a chainsaw gun, and we're big guys dealing with, you know, these monsters that are coming out of the ground and stuff. And so if you take it too seriously, it breaks for me. And so I like having a little bit of that humor. And in fact, it's just how people relate with stuff. Like, we used to get letters from a guy serving in Afghanistan and say, like, we come back from missions and we play Gears of War, and it feels really real to us, because that's how we deal with dark times, is we break it with humor, and you allow for that. Nobody wants to play a game where you're just watching Kate cry about her mom for the entire session, right? Like, so you have to allow for these characters to have different interactions and turn off the pressure a little bit, just to kind of be in the moment and have fun.
Canadians are known for being the politest people on earth.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, really, did you have to rally these guys to lose some of that to be able to build a Gears mode, or can we dispel that myth right now and say these guys were up to the challenge and there was yes?
Yeah, they were totally up to the challenge. Well, what's great is actually, you know, why we like being called the Coalition is we're a diverse set of people. Yeah. We're not all just Canadian. I mean, there's a large number of Canadians here, but we have a sampling of around the world, and none of our saying sorry all the time is evident in the game. But it's people, you know, when you're in the games industry, you used to being aggressive, especially making shooters, and so it's been fun. But I do, what I love about it is the culture on the team. The Canadianisms of the culture of the team is what makes, I think, the coalition so special. Is that when I came in, it was very friendly and embracing, and you know, collaborative, yeah. Because when I came from the East Coast gaming, and East Coast gaming has a different feel to it, especially in Boston.
Yeah.
And so to go from Boston gaming, where you want to flip a table, to here where everybody just wants to, like, hey, let's figure it out, let's collaborate on get this thing done. It was. I mean, they just welcomed me in. I walked in, like I said, Friday they said, we're shutting down what you're working on, and now you're on Gears. And then Monday I walk in, hey guys, let me talk to you about what is Gears. And they were just so welcoming and so exciting, excited for it. It felt great, and I felt like, hey, this is what it is to work at a Canadian studio.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.